And we will call our work session of the Scott County Fiscal Court to order. And I will ask you all to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I shared, we are here. It is August 1. That is hard to believe. And time keeps on marching. We have a lot of business to cover today and several guests and speakers and presentations. I will give you a short rundown, and then if you all want to throw anything else out that I don't cover, please do, as always. But we're going to hear testimony from Miss Crystal Green, who is visiting with us, and Julie Gray from Mary Safe Haven about her experience with the NET device. And then we also have Scott Hall, who is here from the Revenue Commission. Scott, how are you? He's going to give us an update on Revenue Commission for the past year and collections and activity there, and just a lot of information, always good information. Holden Fleming is with us. Holden is going to give us an update on the RV ordinance update, and then also a few other things going on at planning and zoning. Mike Hennigan, I know some of you were at the interlocal meeting, and Mike presented in regards to severe weather plan, but I thought it was very appropriate that he come to our meeting as well and share that information. We have Michelle Ray, who's been working on a draft for tax rate considerations. Going to give you some information there. And then we're going to go back over and talk about the proposed rank consolidation with the fire department. Chief John Ward and Chief Baker are here to talk about that. And then we have shared at the request of Magistrate Rick Hosteller an ordinance regarding street legal SPVs, and CAM did make one adjustment at the recommendation of Rich Ornstein for your all's consideration, and that'll be on the agenda for next Friday. But if I just wanted to bring that up if anybody had any questions about that. And then we will got a couple other items that we'll go through, but anyone else, anything come to your mind that you all want to talk about during our work session today? And, well, I'm so glad because I had that on my head. Let's have a moment of silence for Miss Thompson, 85, I believe, passed away. This is Jared's mother-in-law, Deputy Judge Jared Holland. And their family, many years ago, made it a reality for Stamping Ground to have an EMS facility. They donated that land and just long-standing family there. There's a lot of history and great people, and just that shows you about their care for the community, and we very, very much appreciate that gesture and what it's done for Stamping Ground and the county as a whole. So if y'all would join me in a moment of silence and recognize that. Thank you all. With that said, I will introduce Miss Julie Gray and Crystal Green. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, please. Good morning.
Good morning. And I'm Julie Gray. I'm the director of Mary Safe Haven, and I want to thank you all for all the support you have given us. Special thanks to Rick and Donna for being such advocates for the NET device and for Mary Safe Haven. And thank you for the financial support you give for the NET device. When the ladies come to me, that's one of the educations I provide for them. Crystal is a past resident of Mary Safe Haven. She's recently received the treatment of the NET device. She's also a participant in drug court. So I'm going to turn it over to Crystal.
I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to say. I agree with the NET device. I know I had been clean for 3 years, and I had a relapse in February, and it just, I had the biggest thing it did was for cravings. Ever since I've done it, I haven't had any cravings. It's kind of took that brain fog away I had, and I mean, I feel like a different person after I had it. So I mean, I think that people should try it. It's a really good thing.
Well, very appreciative and grateful for you to come and share that, your firsthand testimony, and you know, grateful for your courage, and we want to support you, and I'm grateful for the court and their leadership to try to support the NET device and use those funds to help people. It's a disease, and it's a sickness, and treating it is, I think, the appropriate way, and
Absolutely,
very grateful for you to come and share that. I know it's not easy. So, but you're not alone, and you got people like Julie there, and such. So we're very appreciative when someone like you comes forward and says, "Hey, this made a difference to me." So.
Would you, I won't put you on the spot so you can say yes or no, but can I ask you a question or two?
Sure, absolutely.
Because you mentioned, like, how long were you on the device? 3 days, 5
3
days?
days.
3 days?
3 days, yeah.
So that was kind of a short treatment, I think.
Yeah.
They say the average is about 5 days.
Yeah.
Well, good. One other thing, you mentioned, Julie, I think, mentioned drug court.
Yeah, I'm graduating drug court in August of this year.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what's that process look like? Or
With drug court?
Yeah.
I've been in it for 3 years. I was like one of the, if anything could be screwed up in drug court, I probably did it. So, but I mean, I help with like mentoring other people who come to drug court. I've been asked to do that. I've got sponsees that I help out now. I guess from all the negative that I've done, I can share that with other people, so that a lot of people will mess up and try to run, and then they have to start their whole process over, and I'm there to tell them that they don't have to, and kind of like guide them through it, because I didn't have anyone guiding me through it. It's kind of why I stayed in it for 3 years. So I mean,
well, I didn't know anything about. I don't know
it's
much
a hard
about
process, but I mean, I'm grateful for it. It saved my life completely.
Well, and it sounds like the NET device helped in that process.
It did, it helped set me back on the right track, because I was falling off, and that got my mind. I mean, it did something to my brain. I'm not sure what it did, but it took cravings away that I would normally, being an addict, you have these cravings that come up frequently, and I haven't had it any since I've had it done.
Well, how long ago were you treated?
In April.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is.
And they just have a certain glow about them too. Once they have it done, it's like their whole appearance changes. Yeah.
Well,
I had a lot of depression at that time too, and I mean, I don't know if it was meant to take care of that also, but it took care of that was where my main everything came from, was the depression, and that's gone also.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
No, thank you for coming, and best regards and best of luck to you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, we'll just go up next. We'll get Holden up here. He's going to be quick. We talked last night, but we spent an hour and a half together from 6 to 7:30 with Holden. How many folks were there? 30? 35. Yeah, and really appreciate the efforts by the planning and zoning staff to really get out and engage with our community on topics. And I passed this out as well, so you're getting 2 copies.
Oh, good. This is accessory housing.
Oh, that's accessory housing. You trumped me there. Okay. So I didn't have that, but I did pass out the RV draft. And last night, a lot of good conversation, a lot of suggestions, and you know, trying to narrow that down. The committee's been working. And I think now the committee has some additional information, feedback. I'm sure you'll gather the committee again and then go back to the planning commission. Could you share about your process there and then go to accessory housing?
Yeah. So, next slide, please. Yeah. So last night we had a fantastic public outreach event related to the RV ordinance. I'll kind of try to distill down a lot of the comments and feedback that we got in the current draft, which is people have concerns about road safety and traffic, and then people have concerns related to wastewater treatment. And so we are doing our best at this point to basically take that feedback that we received and then update the draft accordingly. Now, I'll be frank, I had not planned to reconvene kind of the stakeholders group again. But if we think that that's appropriate, then we can do that. But really what this is, and David, I'm going to look specifically at you. When we did a 6-month moratorium about 7 months ago, you said government's going to take as long as government gets to do this. And I think you hit that on the head.
Don't tell him that because
When former Magistrate Tom Prather sat here, it was when I was first elected, and I was so frustrated at how slow something was going. And he said, "Welcome to the speed of government."
Yeah.
So,
But we are getting there. We are making progress. Judge Cumberland, I appreciate you sharing the draft. That draft is also on our website. But we took feedback. Our job is now to incorporate that feedback and get that in front of the Planning Commission. So if we'll go next slide there. This is what I've laid out. Now we can add in that extra stakeholders meeting, small group conversation.
You can do that via email too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's whatever's best.
But we do want to move this to Planning Commission as quick as we can. Now, I said in the meeting last night, and I'll say it here, we don't want to rush to that public hearing. So we want to have at least one more kind of workshop session where people can really talk about any concerns they have. And we want that conversation to happen in front of the Planning Commission the next time it does. From there, though, we do feel like we're ready for a public hearing. We tried this last month, and our Planning Commission said they wanted more outreach, and so that's actually what slowed down that timeline. But from there, I think, again, regardless of what the Planning Commission's final recommendation to you guys is, I think you guys need to take a crack at it too. I think a workshop in front of this body would be very efficient and very effective, and so you can make any last-minute tweaks or changes that you need. One thing that came up that we need to do more research on, and I'm going to look at you, David, because Ryan brought it up, is insurance for decommissioning. What we don't want to do is we don't want to get into a situation where we create a big problem for the county and the county has to come in and play cleanup and is on the hook for somebody else's problem. And so right now, the draft ordinance talks about insurance requirements if somebody wants to be an RV park operator. There's some questions on how that might function alongside bonds or in lieu of bond or in lieu of bonding, but we need to figure that out and have something to be prepared with and make sure that you guys are comfortable with it. All along this, I've got that big arrow for public engagement. If at any time you guys have questions from the community or the concerns from the community, send them our way. We're constantly looking to integrate the ideas of the community. And so there's no one particular time for public engagement. Public engagement spans this entire process. But I'm being quick, and so that's all I've really got to say about RV ordinance, unless somebody has a specific question.
Any other questions that we'll move on to next?
I just say that thanks, Holden. I think y'all did a great job. We got lots of good feedback, and it was very productive. And I think now we've got some things that we need to get addressed. And it was very good public work.
I think my only concern is getting all this done in the amount of time we got left on the moratorium.
We pushed the moratorium out to Christmas or the 27th of December.
I was thinking it was September.
Yeah.
No, we pushed it out.
Sorry, we did, drafted that, we voted on that.
We voted on your last meeting.
We did a resolution.
Didn't
you miss a meeting?
We did that last meeting.
And
I thought we only did it for
and if
like
I'm
2
wrong,
weeks.
you tell me, but I thought it was 12/27.
That's
I
correct.
thought it was 12/27.
Okay.
I was
All right.
thinking, yeah.
No,
I
we
thought
pushed
it
it
was 2
on
more
out.
months.
We
Oh,
pushed
okay.
it on
Okay.
out.
Resolution 2511, we did that on 7/24.
For some reason, I thought it was September too.
I thought it was.
Well, what?
It was an interim
We did
push
a
and then a
2-month,
full
and then we
push.
did an additional.
Oh,
We-
okay.
And we went on and we said, we're not doing this again.
We did it twice.
We're
Yeah.
we're doing it on.
I got you.
So the one thing that came out of it that was clear to me, the purpose of these is for recreation, and it's not a alternative housing. And from that conversation last night, it was clear in the draft, originally, the conversation was about a 4-month period that one person or one RV slot could be occupied for a length of time. And from the conversation last night, I would support changing that to 29 days. And that will be something that the court will see and the planning commission will see. So just an example of last night's meeting and the impact of getting.
Yeah, that's a big thing too, because of the transient tax, helps out our tourism.
One more thing, Holden. Is it the charge of the court or the charge of planning and zoning when it was brought up about WEDCO and the enforcement and understanding that relationship with the Division of Water and WEDCO? Is that something that you all are going to pursue to understand that relationship with WEDCO, or does the judge and the fiscal court need to understand what their enforcement mechanisms are in case there's a failure or there's a breach of some sort?
Yeah, Magistrate Wallace, on that, I'm going to say it's both of us at this point. So we're both going to have different types of partnerships with WEDCO. Again, from the planning perspective, our primary concern is that use and identifying areas where that use is appropriate. I'll say it, I'm not the wastewater expert on this, and you don't want me trying to be. You guys, similarly though, are not wastewater experts.
That's right.
And so our interaction with WEDCO is going to be very important, and it's going to take some sort of collaboration between all three of us.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would just add that my whole thing, and I said this during the initial RV ordinance, that I want some way to protect the county from having to clean up one of these things. So I don't know that insurance is the best, bonding's the best. I don't know what the best option is. We don't have insurance gurus to figure that out, or bonding gurus, so. Are you saying that you're not an insurance guru?
somebody else.
I mean, you don't have to answer it now.
Thank you for the introduction, Ryan. I appreciate it.
I'm not saying you have to answer it now. I'm just saying, I don't know what the best answer is.
He just pointed something out to me, and I think so. The concern I think that Ryan had is if somebody doesn't have the proper maintenance on the but what I'm private sewer system, whatever you want to refer to it to, but the breakdown of the plant itself would not be covered to be repaired because of lack of maintenance, but the ensuing damage that is caused by that from a liability aspect should be covered. Can't guarantee it 100%, but should be. So like if you have Dwayne, if you have a bearing go out in a boiler, the damage on the boiler may not be covered because of the lack of maintenance, but the ensuing damage it causes outside of the actual boiler itself would be covered. Does that make sense?
Then it's with understanding that, it probably needs to shift more toward a bond type of situation, so that.
Well, but you can buy more insurance than you can a bond. You can buy $1 million live pollution policy and then possibly have a $5 million umbrella over it for a total of $6 million in coverage. I don't know that you'd be able to buy a bond that would cover pollution at $6 million.
Right.
Because I don't know that you could set aside that much collateral to be able to cover that.
But you got to get the septic system fixed. And if they don't have any money to fix it, then that's still the problem still exists.
But then they're shut down.
But then they're out of business.
Yeah.
But the ensuing damage would be taken care of.
Sure.
So that you would shut them down. The septic tank is if the sewer system is not fixed, then you shut them down, and there's no additional damage because you will have had your pollution policy clean it out and take care of it.
Sure.
You can always get more insurance than you can on a bond, and that's why that's what drives me crazy about having contractors have a bond to finish out road projects and infrastructure and stuff, because it's never enough money.
Never know.
Thank you all. We'll continue to keep an eye on progress from the Planning Commission, and I'll let Holden move forward.
Okay. So just quickly, a couple other things just to be aware of. A couple months ago, I came and presented, next slide please, on a agricultural stakeholders group that had some meetings, and out of that, I was basically tasked with three things. come up with draft ordinances for you guys to take a look at for accessory dwelling units, cluster developments, and transfer of development rights. Right now, I have put in front of you a copy of a potential draft for an accessory dwelling unit regulation. The kind of important things to note for this is this would be a by right use, and so it would not require a conditional use permit as long as the property owner has 5 acres. Only one would be allowed per parcel, and this is very much a value call in that we don't want to create a situation where essentially we're creating subdivisions without creating subdivisions. And so as a property owner, you would be allowed 1 by right. We do at this time have an owner occupancy requirement. The owner of the property would have to either live in the primary dwelling or the accessory dwelling. This came about in a conversation related to do we want to basically have a situation where you just have 2 rent houses on a property? And the answer was no. And then following up on that too, then this is very much open for discussion. But if you want to rent off your main house as a vacation rental and stay in the 8U, I think that's a good idea. What I don't want to do is basically just have a bunch of new vacation rentals built across the county and call them accessory dwelling units, because that doesn't really meet the housing need that ADUs are meant to fill. And so right now, again, this is very preliminary draft. This has not gone in front of the Planning Commission yet, but it's kind of a foundation of where we'd like to have conversations go from here. And so I just want to put that in front of you and allow you guys to give me feedback and comments as you see fit. Cluster developments and transfer development rights, we're still working on it. But I just wanted to bring it back in front of you and let you know that we still have it in our sights. And as we're able to, we are planning to complete those documents as well. And that's all I have.
On the ADU, they would share the same driveway.
Same driveway,
And
same water source.
be under the same deed.
Yeah.
And that's important.
They would have to have separate meters, though, wouldn't they?
Not necessarily.
I mean, you could get a separate meter, and that's not really a big deal. But the driveway, in my mind, you could.
What meters are you talking about? Water meter?
Yeah. Water.
You would have to have separate water.
Well, that was going to be my question too, the water, since we already got issues out there already. Would they have to come before planning and zoning to add this additional unit? Because Georgetown Water would sign off on it then.
Yeah.
Because
So
it is going to be more water use.
you would have to talk to your water service provider the same way you would anytime you add service to a property.
Well, if they attach onto the main water lines already coming
But
to
they're
the
going
house.
to
it
get a
would
building
have to.
permit. And for them to get a building permit, in my mind, they're going to have to check off with GMWSS that we should make sure that happens.
Yeah. That's my only concern.
Yeah.
And the only other, and I always think about enforcement, like how do you enforce owner occupancy? Or, how do you know or not know? How are you going to know it's being used as a rental or not? So how does that look?
Well, ideally for the vacation rental, they're supposed to be registering those anyway. And so if you go to register an accessory dwelling unit, that should probably flag somewhere that doesn't work.
So it flags, then what happens? You know what I mean? Like how do you?
To just take enforcement action.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it always starts with a very friendly letter. If the friendly letter doesn't work, normally it's a phone call or a visit to the property after
Go
that.
back to like eventually in front of like planning and zoning and
Yeah.
some sort of.
Yeah.
Well, what's the enforcement action?
Starts with fines. Again, ideally, nothing ever, we don't ever want something to get that way. We want, we want
Assume you're going to get there with one.
compliance. And for the most part, honestly, I'll tell you, my experience is if somebody is doing something and they're not aware that it's out of compliance, that first letter a lot of times works.
Sure,
And they say, oh, yeah, okay, I didn't realize. So the first one is always educational. After that, again, if you run into somebody who's intentionally being a bad actor, again, there's just a process that we have. It's a policy, and we just walk through the steps. It's not fun, but
Sure.
it's doable.
I have a question. Like it says in here that you can rent it, not short term, but you can do a long term rental.
Sure.
I mean, is that really the spirit of the ADU? It says no short-term, but in here,
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah, long-term
ADUs
rentals.
for occupation by long-term
Long-term
rentals.
rentals is what you're wanting.
But it says up there owner occupancy required.
Yeah.
In the main residence.
Yeah, one of
No,
the
it's one of the
two.
two.
And then that's going to allow the other one to be more flexible.
Okay.
And so, again, what is the primary focus of this? And so, long-term rental is still long-term housing stock. A short-term rental is not. But that's part of the conversation. If you also think about the length of, an ADU, ideally this is being built and it's going to be on the property for 30-plus years, right? So it might make sense that in the immediate, you build it because you know your mother-in-law is coming to stay. But what happens for that next use, that use that follows after that? And so by allowing for long-term rentals, it might make sense. At this point, I would not feel comfortable just saying, it can only be a direct family member.
And the thought process about this complete is, the concern is loss of prime farmland and the impact of the 5-acre lot on that. And by implementing an ADU policy, that might eliminate the carving off of additional 5-acre lots. I mean,
Yeah,
would you
and-
comment on that, Holden?
Just briefly. So right now, the mechanism that somebody has to get that second house is if they have, increments of 5, they're allowed secondary and tertiary dwelling units. But those dwelling units have all the rights of an independent dwelling unit. So that is a separate driveway that, can be a new, water line or water meter set up there. And, ideally too, when that secondary residence is put on the property, we do something called shadow planning, where we say it's got to have at least 100 feet between the houses so that in the future, if it wants to be broken off, we can put a property line between them and it meets its setbacks. The ADU is actually kind of the reverse of that. We want to see those two units relatively close to one another because it's not supposed to be separated off. And so the code, the way it's written right now, requires it to be within 300 feet, which could be divided or it might not be divided. You could put that ADU as close to the property or as close to the primary dwelling as you wanted, including this has provisions for attached accessory dwelling units, where you just have, kind of the in-suite built in. But they're really looking to accomplish two different things. One is, again, to create that incidental residential use to the primary versus that secondary dwelling is a standalone independent designed for future subdivision.
Holden, I understand what you're saying. I think in some instances it works. For example, if you want to build a detached garage and you have living quarters above it and you want to have people live there, I think that works fine. Where the issue is, I don't see it in the ordinance, is when it's not compliant with the other properties around it. That's when I've gotten the phone calls of, my neighbor is building this and all the houses are on 5 acres and they're all brick, and then here we have someone who's putting a vinyl siding house and it doesn't match. Is there some language that we should put in there that so it kind of blends in, you know what I'm saying, with the rest of the neighborhood, that it doesn't stick out?
Similar to a like-kind house and structure, and so that
Yeah.
it looks like it fits.
It's not going to be in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are 5-acre tracts.
Well, some of them, like Fisher's Mill, for example, is on 5-acre tracts, but it's a neighborhood, but it's a series of a bunch of 5-acre tracts that acts like a neighborhood. But they also have horse barns that has living quarters in it, and it goes along with the rest of.
Don't they have an HOA that governs all that?
They do not have an HOA at Fisher's Mill.
So so then who governs how houses are built and what they look like there? Like if I go out there today and I build a house, I can just build whatever I want?
Yes.
It's deed, if there's deed restrictions on the property, then it would be up to the adjacent properties. They can file a lawsuit in court against their property owner to make sure that they are compliant with the restrictions in the absence of an HOA.
But who would have set restrictions?
The property owner, when they originally got it subdivided through planning and zoning.
So like wouldn't this ADU have to follow those deed restrictions? Because it'd be on the same,
If they exist,
if they don't exist, then they're not,
they can do whatever they want.
they can do whatever
And
they
I
want.
think that's the answer there.
Yeah.
So if the deed restrictions exist, or if the HOA is in that area, then that would be who would govern stylistic decisions. Above and beyond that, planning typically does not step into the world of siding or roof pitch or things like that.
Right.
The one exception that we do currently have in our code is related to mobile homes. And as I'm sure you guys are aware, the state of Kentucky this last legislative session passed even restrictions on what we can do for that enforcement. And so I would be very hesitant to add in, again, the specific design standards at this stage, understanding that typically, again, that's handled by deed restrictions or HOAs.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying is everybody in the neighborhood's got brick houses, and then somebody puts a vinyl house, which that's fine, or a vinyl thing in there. The people are going to be upset, and that's when we're going to get the phone calls. And I'm just trying to prevent that, that from happening, to make sure.
So to kind of expand on what he's talking about, so there would be no restrictions with size, floor.
Size, yes. So the way that this is currently written is an accessory dwelling unit would be limited to 50% of the square footage of the primary dwelling, not to exceed 1,250 square feet. So the idea is they are smaller, accessory units.
So you could end up with a tiny home out there.
Well, so tiny homes are an entirely different conversation. Right. Small stick-built home, yes. But a tiny home on a trailer, the way I would interpret this would be no. There is a requirement inside of this called structure type. Again, this is just a draft, but it says accessory housing units shall not be travel trailers, recreational vehicles, buses, truck storage containers, or similar manufactured units which were not originally intended to be used as a permanent residence.
Okay.
And so, again, those park model trailers were originally designed to be RVs in an RV park.
Right.
And so that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about stick-built or modular structures.
Okay.
So this is just an introduction and start of a conversation.
As you can see, a lot of great conversation ahead of us.
Yeah.
And this is why government takes time.
So, Holden, thank you. Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon today.
Okay.
Scott Hall, good morning. Thank you for coming. Appreciate the work that Scott and his team does at the Revenue Commission, the efforts in collection and the data that they share on a monthly basis, and just always very impressed with the professionalism and efforts. So thank you for being here. And Scott's got a presentation, good information.
Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be here and speak to you all today. So this is a fiscal court update on I've got some numbers to share with you regarding the Revenue Commission. Next slide, please. So our aggregate collections, this includes the city, county, and school board. As you all know, we collect for all three. We just went back 3 years here. Next, 2023, 2024, and 25, you can see steady growth there in the aggregate collections overall. 2025, of course, that fiscal year just ended about a month ago, so these are unaudited numbers for 25. That's what the asterisk means. $75.6 million. That's the largest single year of occupational license tax collections in the 20-year history of the Revenue Commission. It's also the first year that we've ever exceeded $70 million in aggregate collections, and it's an $11.9 million increase over fiscal year 2024, and that is also a record. That's the largest single year-over-year increase in the 20-year history of the Revenue Commission. Next slide, please. So in the last 9 years, I came to the Revenue Commission on July 5th, 2016. Our average collections per year in the last 9 years are $50.2 million. If you compare that with the prior 12 and a half years, that average was $32.2 million. So we're looking at average annual collections that are $18 million higher in the last 9 years when compared to the prior 12 and a half years. So how are we doing this? We get asked that a lot. There isn't a silver bullet. There's no magic pill. It's a commitment to a proven strategic plan that's based on solid data. Next slide, please. Now, I've broken it down here by the county to give you a same 3-year look back on actual county collections. You'll see there the first number in blue, that is the net profit collections. And you can also see over the past 3 years, steady growth there. The green bars here, this is payroll tax. Not surprisingly, that's the largest of the two. You can see the steady revenue growth for the county as well. We're looking at 25.1 million, 29, and now 34 altogether. So that's 88.69 million that's been collected over the last 3 years on behalf of the county. 19.61 million of that's net profit taxes. And keep in mind, in the county, of course, as you know, the first $10,000 of net profit is exempt from Scott County occupational tax, and the withholding taxes are 69.08. So that's kind of out of that prior slide where the aggregate city, county, school board lumped together, here's kind of a similar snapshot with just the county, but also broken down by net profits and payroll. Now, the administrative efficiency of the Revenue Commission is something we're very proud of, and we have a great team over there that participates in all this. To me, this is the key deliverable that we present every year to our three commissioners, Judge Covington, Mayor Jenkins, and Superintendent Parker. So again, for the fiscal year, we just saw that the revenue collections unaudited are $75.6 million. Our operational expenses for that same fiscal year were $1.38 million. So you do the math on that, we have a 98.17% return on investment. For every $1 we collect, we spend, we get roughly in expenses, we get $55 in revenue. Or in other words, for every $1 we collect, our operational costs are about 1.8 cents. And since that 1.8 cents is shared between the city, county, and school board, each of the three jurisdictions is actually paying less than 1 penny for every $1 that we collect. That's why I call this the key deliverable. But I think a lot of credit goes to the community here as a whole. The Revenue Commission model that the city, county, and school board has chosen over 20 years ago provides the benefits of the economies of scale, locally controlled centralized collection for the convenience of the three taxing jurisdictions, as well as the taxpayers and the tax professionals, while maintaining 100% local control of this vital source of revenue to meet the needs of our citizens.
Scott, could I?
Yes, sir.
Just because you're very involved with COLA.
Yes, sir.
Could you share with the court the acronym COLA?
Kentucky Occupational License Association.
There you go. But Scott's very involved, been involved, and I think it's great that you network with other professionals across the state. But like, you get calls constantly and visits constantly to look at our model. Correct?
That is correct. We just spoke to the Kentucky GFOA, Government Financial Officers Association, last month. We've had streaming calls with Paducah. We've had cities come to our office and meet. We've had counties come to our office and meet, look at our setup. Judge, you participated where a city and a county came together.
Most recently, Nicholasville, Jessamine County.
Yes.
What the Revenue Commission does for us is provides a very professional one-stop shop, and you've heard talk on the state level of those collections, centralized collection, and we have to oppose that if that comes back up, and we will. But just the service that we have is very, very. It's an outlier, and I appreciate the work you all do.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, on the subject of COLA, our state tax association is a mix of cities, counties, and school boards all throughout the Commonwealth. So, and I'm a past president of that organization. I held the conference, our fall conference, right here in Georgetown in 2019. And also, COLA has a seat on the KLC board as well. And for the past 8 years, I've been COLA's representative on that board. But COLA works very closely with both KACO and KLC on issues like centralized collection, because this is not the first time this issue has come up, and trust me, it will not be the last that this continues to come up. But we will continue to fight that fight, united with KLC and KACO working together with us.
Is KSBA involved in that at all, or the school superintendents, or?
Well, when Eric Kennedy was the Legislative Affairs Director at KSBA, he was very involved. In fact, every year at our fall conference, well, our spring seminar in Frankfurt as well, KLC and KCO give legislative updates. When Eric was there, he would give the school board's perspectives as well. But since he left, took another position, to my knowledge, they've not filled that role.
It was just filled. His name's Josh Schulte.
Oh, great, good to know. So
I'll email you his.
Yes, please do. I'll be reaching out to him for sure, because we need that involvement. And before that, Eric was right in there with KLC and KCO, and we were all very united opposing things like this that are detrimental and threaten the local control and the home rule that we have in our local jurisdictions. So,
The next slide that Scott's going to share just amazes me, so I'll let you go to it.
It amazes me too. Next, let's start so when I came in 2017, that was about 700. Then
744.
Then it grew, yeah, sorry, my 62-year-old eyes aren't seeing that right. So then it grew again the next year. You see it dropped a little in 2019, obviously due to COVID. And then ever since 2021, we've not had a year where we've not had less than 1,000 new accounts open at the Revenue Commission. And you'll see there, we track this on a calendar year. So for 25, that's just the first 6 months, and it's over 600. So if that trend continues for the next 6 months, we'll be over 1,200 again this year. So it's pretty remarkable. And of course, we're a growing community. It's not that surprising, but you can see that I think there were a lot of folks we were missing until we put in some of the compliance efforts that we have more than recently. But that's always stunned me. I've talked to cities and counties that said they'd be happy with having that many new businesses over a course of 5 years, and we have it every single year, over 1,000.
But the efforts to make sure that subcontractors on construction jobs and different things, to make sure that they're registered, just makes a big difference. And you can see the results of that, I believe. And go ahead, Scott.
That's okay.
Rick?
Yeah, sir.
Those are astounding numbers when you start digging into that. I mean, hundreds of, those are all new clients.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. In 2017, I was shocked when it was 744. I said, that can't be right. And we started looking into it, and it was. And it just grew, and it grew, and it grew. And, we've done a lot of things to encourage voluntary compliance, put a lot of tools in place for folks to do that. I think that's reflected in this as well. But I think it's also just the organic growth in this community. It's explosive. But yeah, and that averages, what did I report to the commissioners last month, Judge? This year for 25, we're averaging 107 new businesses a month. I've had cities at KLC tell me, I'd be happy if I had that in a year.
And a lot of that is that small home-based business. So, but it's compliance.
Yes.
Like, how many do you have come off the list, though?
Well, there are accounts that also close. I mean, it's a net positive for sure, but there are accounts close, and a lot of times that number is a little deceiving, because when they close, a lot of times somebody will buy this franchise of this restaurant,
just kind of change,
and it'll just change, so that it'll wash.
Yeah.
There'll be a new one, but then there's an old one that account gets closed, a new account gets open, so it's kind of a wash.
What, like, is there an industry or an arena? I don't know. That's such a big number. I'm just wondering, like, you mentioned in the building, I can see where you can have a lot of different subcontractors new to our county with all the buildings going. Maybe is that an arena that a lot of these are popping up in? Or?
We share that annually with the commissioners at our meetings. We'll do a deeper breakdown by sector, by business sector, using GCIS codes to try to figure that out. NACIS codes, I'm sorry. But it's kind of across the board. I mean, you'll have veterinarians. I mean, I think it's primarily driven by the population growth, because they all need dentists. They need places to get their hair cut. They need dry cleaner. So it's kind of across the board. There's not like, well, it's this. I mean, obviously we know with our largest employer, there's a lot of their suppliers have set up shop here too over the past almost 40 years. And then they grow, and then they expand. And some of them have the KBI incentive projects here as well. So
Rick, it could be a scenario too where people don't actually have a base to business here. Like our office is in Lexington, but part of my salary is generated from Scott County, so we pay taxes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And in the past 9 years, we've tried to create a culture of compliance, and that means removing barriers to encourage people to come in, get registered, get their business license, and file and pay in a timely fashion. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Great questions. Next, please. So, even though all that success and all those numbers are very good and very positive and very strong, there are still some folks that need a little bit more encouragement to file and pay on time. I'll say it like that. So we have ongoing compliance efforts. And next slide here. These efforts have contributed to the numbers you've just seen. And I want to introduce you to a concept called the tax gap. And this is something, we all have it. Federal government has it, state government has it, all local governments have it. It's basically, this is what we collected, this is what we think we should have collected. So the federal government has a tax gap. It's approaching $700 billion at the federal level. All state governments have it. As I mentioned, at the local level we have. And this is how we tend to look at it strategically. And within the tax gap, there's a micro tax gap. So that's the known businesses. That's the businesses we have registered, the ones that come forward voluntarily or that we find. And you can see there's unreported income from small businesses, noncompliance, revenue missed from the incorrect or absent filings. Potential impact, obviously, is potentially reductions in local services and infrastructure due to that missed revenue. But there's also a larger tax gap, what I call the micro tax gap, and that's unknown businesses. What's the old saying, you don't know what you don't know? Well, there are businesses out there that are much more difficult to detect. Gig economy, ride sharing, short-term rentals is a big one. This is also unreported income, and potentially the challenges for there is just a lack of visibility to those businesses. But we use a lot of different tools, a lot of compliance tools in our toolbox. One of the biggest ones I'll mention is we have for many years had an exchange of information agreement with the Kentucky Department of Revenue. We share information with them, they share information with us. Because people will file and pay their federal income tax and their state income tax because they're scared to death of the IRS, not so much us. And so we can pick up a lot of folks that way as well. We also found out recently that the Kentucky Secretary of State has a bulk data program. So we just submitted our application for that. So all businesses that operate in the state theoretically have to register with the Secretary of State. They don't all do it, but a lot do. And sometimes we find a few we've missed there. Smaller businesses that come in, or they're coming in to do construction, they're here a short time, then they're out. So we continue to look for new ways to find these folks, but I just did want to introduce you to the concept of the tax gap, and it is something we look at and track as a regular basis.
I have a
Ryan.
question.
Yes, sir.
Looking at this list, especially the micro tax, some of these things we can't really affect, but the one that sticks out is the non-compliance and local business license. I mean, that's something that we administer, the government administers, not we.
Right.
It seems like that should be something that we should be able to have some effect on, right? I mean, if somebody's not compliant with their business license, do you all have any recourse against somebody like that?
Oh, absolutely. We have enforcement. The bottom one, the macro, we call that discovery, finding the businesses that are out there we may not know about. What you're talking about is compliance, collections, and enforcement. Yes, we do all that. We have a full-time, dedicated general counsel who all he does is occupational license tax. It's not someone from the county attorney's office or the city attorney's. It's dedicated. He's an employee of the Revenue Commission. He does amazing work. Part of the data I share with the commissioners every month is what he alone has collected, and trust me, he more than covers his salary with just the accounts he goes after. It's unfortunate that we have to do that, but in some cases civil action is a possibility, wage garnishments, any normal collections mechanisms that would be available for collecting any debt are largely available to us, and we will explore those if it is warranted. But I want to say the most cost-effective way to collect any tax is to encourage voluntary compliance. And so when folks do get in trouble, we have a lot of tools. We have a one-time courtesy waiver. We have a robust penalty and interest abatement program. We have settlement plans, we have payment plans. So we'll work with somebody. A mentor of mine many years ago said there's basically two kinds of people that don't pay their taxes: those that can't pay and those that won't pay. And the strategies for dealing with those two separate and distinct subsets of the non-compliant tax population are radically different. I mean, if somebody's really struggling, we want to help them. Some of my colleagues in COLA sometimes say, well, we ought to just be able to go in and padlock their door. And I'm like, how are they going to pay you then if you shut them down, a small business? Now, a larger business that typically has the money, but they're not filing and paying for whatever reason, that's a different story. But if a business is really struggling, we want to err on the side of trying to get them back on track, because we've all hit rough patches in our life.
So to elaborate on that, do you put liens on properties? Do you go to foreclosure?
We can. We can.
I didn't say you can. Do you do that?
We are not. We've not done that.
Why not?
Well, the new general counsel that we have has only been with us since November. So, but that's on our radar. It's something we're definitely going to do. And also wage garnishments for federal workers working in the jurisdiction are a possibility, because they are not, we cannot compel them to withhold because it's the federal government. But what we can do is, and what we do is every year we do a FOIA request and we get the W-2 information. So we know who's working here, we know what they're earning, and we can go after that through wage garnishments if they're not voluntarily complying. So.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, was that the last slide, Scott?
Let's see here. Next slide. Sorry, Chad. Here, Chad. No. So here's some of the things we want to talk about promoting voluntary compliance. These are some of the tools. We've updated our website, and now everything that you could still do on paper, now you can do online, 100% online. We went live with that at the end of November, or late August, early November. And so now everything that we offer can be done online. And the response was tremendous this tax season around April 15th. People are really excited about that. We're using it. We talked with some of the local CPAs about it. They were very encouraged by it. So you're seeing more and more of that. That's an opportunity that we have to encourage voluntary compliance, make it easy for people to file and pay right from their home. As I mentioned before, we have payment plans, one-time courtesy waivers for new businesses that don't have the tools necessary to do due diligence and understand the local tax filings, penalty and interest abatement requests. We do have VDAs, voluntary disclosure agreements. We've had 2 of those since I've been here. That's when a larger business or their legal counsel comes forward and say, hey, sorry, we dropped the ball, but we want to come clean, come in out of the cold. We've had, the biggest one we had, the collections on that was $230,000 with one VDA for a company that's been operating here for 5 years. So that's a great tool. Planning and zoning, the folks over there have always been great with helping us with compliance. We're on a checklist that has to be filled out. Your preliminary development plan is basically going nowhere if you're delinquent with us, not just us, but the city, stamping ground, and any of the other taxing jurisdictions. That's been a big one. Also, permit and license holds. A lot of the subcontractors, they're not compliant with us. They could lose the ability temporarily to pull permits. And then some of the discovery initiatives I mentioned with the exchange of information agreement. We are we've executed one with tourism as well, so we can both have a better idea to get a handle on this short-term rentals and make sure they're compliant. I mentioned the SOS bulk data. Canvassing, we have a full-time business license inspector that drives around, goes to a lot of the job sites. And then PVA, Mr. Burke over there, we have a very good relationship with them, and we get a lot of digital data on that public information. Commercial property transfers is a big one. When somebody sells that next year, they somehow forget to file because there's a big capital gain that's realized in a lot of cases. So that's some of our other ongoing compliance efforts in terms of things we're trying to do to make folks become compliant. Next slide. And that's the questions. Be happy to stick around and answer.
I do. So looking back at show what your collections were and what your expenses were, and a 98.17% ROI, has the groups that are coming together to oppose centralization, have they asked the state to say, hey, put a pause, what do you think you can do this for?
Oh, I've brought that up multiple times
Okay,
in the
okay.
conversations. It's like, because in House
Because
Bill,
they're starting from scratch, correct? They would have to start from scratch and build from the ground up.
House Bill 253 identified the state treasurer. And my,
But you would still have to have all the software, all the folks hired.
and who's going to pay for it and how's it
Correct.
going to be funded. When that bill came out, I told everybody after I read it that it didn't read like a tax bill to me. It read like a laundry list of unfunded mandates for cities and counties, is what it read like to me. So it was very concerning. And the language in there also said they're not going to do all the stuff that we do. They're basically just going to collect it and hopefully get it to us in a timely
But they're not
fashion.
responsible for unpaid. They're only going to be the deposit, holding the deposits and then putting them out,
Yes.
hopefully in a quick time period.
Right, right.
They
So-
said within 6 hours.
So essentially, you would still have to have the same office we have,
Yes.
because we would still have to go after those who are not paying. We would still have to work to find out who's not paying. You'd still, all you're doing is creating another layer of government in this whole process.
Well, and it's actually worse than that, Magistrate Livingston, because if you read the language closely, we are going to be tasked, all of us, cities, counties, school boards, revenue commissions, with helping them build this, which means we're not going to be able to do some of the things you said, because we are going to be required per the legislation to help them build this and put it together. So, yeah, our fear initially was, well, the cities and counties are going to think, well, great, we can get rid of our folks that are devoted to this, have them do something else, and have the state collect it for us. That's not what they're talking
Now,
about.
the state is going after that because they want to try to help the smaller counties, right? That is not set up the way we are. That's their thing, like that, the
No,
expense of a small county.
my understanding is the legislation, the legislators that are behind this, or the lobbying groups that are lobbying the legislators that are supporting this, they want a one place. You go to one portal, you log on, and you pay your taxes. You do a drop down, Georgetown, Scott County, drop down, Somerset, drop down.
Why do they want that?
That's right.
Ease of filing.
Because they may do business in 6 counties that collect occupational
Yeah.
license tax, so they don't want to be
That
writing
makes
checks to
sense.
each
I do
individual.
remember that conversation.
Yeah,
you said that.
one state senator said that, he does business in 46 counties. So he has to file 46 of these tax returns in 46
He's
different counties.
blessed.
Yeah.
He could
Well-
be only in 2 counties.
I mean, he's getting services in each of those 46 counties, and that costs money, so, but that doesn't usually go over very well.
It seems like we could streamline those types of things, but
Well, I mean, here's what I thought about when I was actually having this conversation with Shelley Hampton from CAECO about this last week. I said, so what if you had rental properties in 46 counties? That means you got 46 water bills, right? 46 property tax bills. Is there a central place where you can go and pay? So there's a reason why these things don't exist. They say, well, you can go and pay your Visa bill online. Why shouldn't you pay your tax? Well, you've been able to pay online with us. since-
Visa's one company.
20
It's not,
not all of them.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you've been able to pay online with the Revenue Commission since 2017. So that part, we got that
Well,
taken
and I
care of.
think the one of the best lines I've ever heard a county judge say when testifying is, when you've seen one Kentucky county, you've seen one Kentucky county. It doesn't work for everybody,
Correct.
even though they may think it does.
Well, and
From
that's,
that level.
that goes back to local control and home rule.
Right.
What works in Corbin is not necessarily going to work in Georgetown or E-Town. So, for example, what that would look like the $10,000 exemption, and in the city of Georgetown is $10,000 for people that are 65 and over. So the only way that what they say they want to do would happen is if you just eliminated all the local ordinances related to tax, and everybody charged the same rate, the same fee, the same exemptions, the same deductions, and that's just not very realistic. If that was realistic, they could have done this at the state level years ago, because there's only 41 states that have an income tax now. So you just have to get 41, and I've asked the question too, well, why haven't they done yet? Well, because the states are all so different. Well, the counties are all different, and the cities are all different, and that's the point of local control and home rule, is folks like you make those decisions on what's best for our community based on what your constituents are telling you. That's the piece they're missing.
So just to kind of wrap this up, and we'll come back, and if y'all have other questions, I really appreciate the information. But I want everybody to understand that occupational license tax reflects 39.8 of our revenue for general fund last year. 39.8. The net profits represented 16.5 of our total general fund revenue. So you add those two together, we're up to 55%, thereabouts. Now, Scott will agree with me. Like the net profit, we have realized gains in net profit, but net profit is sometimes subject to, Scott, how?
It's very volatile.
It's very volatile, and it's also, like a company might come and say, hey, we've overpaid, and they might present that, and we have to investigate that. So I want to continue to challenge the court when we're looking at revenues that net profit, it cannot, we cannot depend on that net profit's going to be up and down, it's going to be volatile. So I want you to understand that. And then here's the other piece that I'd love to talk more about, but this is from KY Stats. And every day, 17,345 people come into Scott County to work, and they are paying OLT. Paying OLT. They don't live here, but they are paying for our services. Every day, 9,687 people live and work and reside and live and work in Scott County. And that's a different rate, correct?
Yes.
2.5.
Yes.
And the folks that do not live pay 2.0.
Well, and the occupational license tax is not an income tax. It is basically a privilege tax for the privilege of doing business in our jurisdiction. So it's not based on, and we get this all the time, well, our office is in Nashville, Tennessee. It's not based on where you're based. It's based on where you're doing the work, where the work is performed, and that's correct. People come into this community to work in droves, and we do capture that revenue.
So we exist to provide services, and that's why we function. And we try to provide those services as a good steward of taxpayers, and we try to do a good job of that. The cost of our services will never be less than it is today. That's reality. So the importance of good paying jobs and steady, balanced, measured growth is critical to what we do. So I want people to understand, and then Michelle's getting ready to talk about our property tax in a draft. She's going to show you a trend where our assessments have continued to grow, and we have no control over assessments. But what we have done over the last 7 years is you can see our rates have gradually dropped to reflect the growth of assessment, but we never want to have a year-to-year growth more than 4%. And as long as we can, we do not want that. So I'm trying to tie all these things together in the work of the Revenue Commission, how critical it is, and how we function to provide services, and to do that, adding good jobs is critical in my mind. So appreciate your work.
I have one last question.
Yes, sir.
When they register and everything with your office, and I'm assuming they get some kind of identification number.
They get a business license.
Okay, for their business license.
Yes.
Okay. I think going forward, when we put out projects to bid, to build, to do we require them to include a copy of their business license?
Oh, like you go down here to the Justice Center, like at the construction update.
On site.
On site, you see that.
For all the subs?
All the subs.
Okay.
But then they also, like part of the agenda, reminder, any new subs must register.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, that's happening. Now, is it perfect? No, but
No.
I can tell you that.
I'm not in those meetings, so
Yeah,
I don't
but I can
know.
tell you that
Okay.
that's what's going on down here, and that's a 70,000 square foot project. It's got a few million going in there.
The same thing happens at places like the Peddler's Mall and flea markets that are you know, in a strip center or whatever, they hand out our forms, they tell them, does everybody do it? No, but that, you know, that's on us to find those folks. But we do have partners that help us with that kind of.
Okay. And Frank's out there canvassing.
And he is out there canvassing, and he's full-time.
He's bird dog on it.
He's got a white Toyota Highlander, and he's putting miles on it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you again.
thank you all so much. And my email, feel free to email me if you have more questions. Our phone number's on there as well.
Mike Hennigan, you're up next.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Zach. Zach had that up before I could say Mike Hennigan, I think.
I gave you all a handout. We're just going to hit the 50,000-foot view. You know, we've all been here a while. And the reason that I gave you the severe weather plan is that's basically the foundation for all of our plans. The majority of big events here in Scott County are weather related, so the easiest way for us to operate is to have a very robust severe weather plan and then be able to dovetail into other events that may work with that. We're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of the major hazmat at Toyota, where there was a possibility that we were going to evacuate 50% of Scott County. We would have hit this plan, started, activating these organizations and these agreements if we had to shelter 30,000 people. The explosive event at Georgetown College last year, same thing. I'm calling Mayor Jenkins and the judge saying that there's a possibility that if this device, this jar of chemical detonates, we're going to have a really big problem. So like I said, looking at the severe weather plan gives you an idea of what we're dealing with and what we're operating from on a daily basis. And I'm very passionate about what I do. I feel like I'm good at what I do. So I invite anybody to come to my office and talk in depth. I don't want to sit here and read PowerPoints and bore you to death. If you have a specific concern, or if there's a part of the plan that you'd like to discuss or have further information, I'll brew up a pot of coffee and we'll dig into it and we'll really work with that. But anyway, the handout that you were given, next slide, please. We have 35 incident-specific plans to go along with the emergency operations plan, and then, as I said, this, which is our basis. Severe weather plan, shelter plan, a debris plan. Laurel County and London have just topped the 50 million tons of debris level responding to the disaster in May.
And they're still
they're still digging. They're digging out from what they did. There'll be another year or two collecting debris and disposing of it. So the debris plan is the highest on my priority right now. We do have a debris plan in place, but in order to be FEMA certified, we've got to have organizations and contracts with debris management companies. People that can come in with triaxle trailers and excavators and all of the big equipment that's necessary in order to get Scott County back into place. So that's what I'm working on at the moment, is developing those RFPs, get the companies that can do it and get them at the table so that we can have these contracts in place and be ready to just pull the trigger with a phone call.
So that's an action item that we'll be seeing from Mike going forward, kind of coming from this.
And then the points of distribution plan, a little bit further into this handout. After sending Gina to several nationally declared disasters in North Carolina, the floods in eastern Kentucky, the tornado in western Kentucky, we've really drilled down and come up with pretty decent point of distribution plan. Utilizing Great Crossing Park, utilizing the Scott County Park on US 25, and then we're working on putting a plan together to use some of the industrial park over by Country Boy, where you could have people coming in from Cynthiana Road serpentine throughout the community, getting all the things that they need, and then exit, so that you're not crisscrossing or doubling up. You know. So those are things that we're working on in order to have large places to be and operate successfully. Next page, next slide, please. The what if. Gina and I, on a regular basis, we have our coffee meeting every morning at 8 a.m. and we talk about current events and what if it happened to us. The earthquake that happened in Russia last week brought to the top of the page, what's our earthquake plan? Maybe not so much in Scott County, but what if the new Madrid goes off over in western Kentucky? The majority of all of the infrastructure that supports the eastern seaboard goes through the city of Memphis. All the natural gas, a lot of fiber optics. So if the new Madrid pops off, we will be supporting the people in Kentucky and basically folding the state over in half so that everybody on the east side is going over to support the west, and get them back up to speed. But there will be a national impact, probably for years and billions of dollars in damage. So, sitting there talking about how is our earthquake plan? Are we happy with what we have? What can we do to fix it? Last week we hosted ICS 300 and 400 40-hour training for incident command. Several people came out of that training and asked for advanced information. What's our mass casualty plan? Where are we going to have staging areas? If we have to transport numerous patients, where is that coming from and how do we? So we're going to readdress the mass casualty plan, bring in department heads and stakeholders and figuring that out. So, but anyway, this whole operation is based on a tornado because that was what was high on our priority at the moment. A 1.5 mile wide, 2 mile long tornado, which is basically any time a tornado touches down, that's pretty much what's going to happen. It's mile to 2 miles long, half mile. So approximate number of homes that would be affected is 855. Displaced residents 2,565. Where do you shelter 2,500 people for days or weeks while we get their homes put back together? Percentage of people requiring resources 75%. You can read all the numbers there. It's astounding. What we're considering on a daily basis. And then after the London Laurel thing, we're 56-mile tornado, a mile and a half wide. We sat down and said, what if we had a tornado that touched down in Frankfurt, came straight across through Stamping Ground, and then basically followed 460 into Bourbon County? What would that affect? And it's basically almost all of our schools, so that would eliminate a big shelter opportunity. Georgetown Police Department is damaged. Georgetown Fire Department, stations 1, 2, and 3. On and on and on. And that's just a 16-mile tornado. That's not the one that went through southern Kentucky. 3 counties, 56 miles, billions of dollars worth of damage. We're always considering that. You can read the pre-storm actions. You know what we do. A lot of you call me on a stormy day and say, what are we doing? When are we opening shelters? What time are we doing it? So we're monitoring the daily forecast, participating in conference calls, issuing department notifications, and then providing the public message.
And you got better radar.
Well, I was going to mention that. The company that we agreed to go with had a glitch where their system doesn't work on Android anymore. So I suspended, before signing the contract, I called and said, I want to see this working successfully because we have a lot of Apple equipment, but we've also got a majority of our stuff is Galaxy tablets and that type of thing. So we will have better radar, but I'm not paying the bill until they can show me that that they're doing what they need to do. But the other point that I wanted to share is that we are 2 to 4 weeks away from rolling out the new public notification system, going with the Civic Plus platform. It's a really robust operation where we can do internal as well as public messaging. They've been working very closely with us, making sure that the system works exactly how we want it to go. And then I've included the new 911 coordinator in those discussions so that the alerts can go out from 911 as well as from my office. We'll add more administrators, if different department heads want to be able to do things internally for their people, we can do all that. But I'm really excited about being able to put QR codes at the rest areas, at the truck stops. One of the big heartburn and headache things that I have is what somebody mentioned earlier. There's 1,700 people that come into Scott County to work every day that don't live here.
17,000.
17,000, yeah. Toyota represents residents of 85 counties. People travel from 85 different counties to be here. So that was one of the things that I requested from this new software company. I want to be able to geofence and hit phones that are not registered to Scott County residents. And that's what our old system did, was it was primarily based on residency and having to register your address. Now, as long as you download the app and do make sure, then we're just hitting people by location. So, next slide, please. During the storm, that's where we're rocking and rolling. We're bringing in our volunteers, monitoring, we're sharing messages with the other communities. I've got people from Franklin County, Woodford County, Fayette County. We're all on a text group that says, hey, here's what we're dealing with. Get ready for it. It'll be to you in this many minutes. Tornado watches, we're opening the storm shelters and we're contacting the non-county owned shelters. And then tornado warning, we're just locking it down. Everybody has to be in some place. And, next slide. After the severe or damaging storm, we're doing damage assessments. In order to get FEMA to come to town or get a declaration, we have to provide a certain threshold of damage. So we've got people going out and putting a dollar figure on damaged, destroyed, all those different levels. We're reviewing the human impact, how many displaced individuals, how many injured, how many fatalities, if that's applicable. And then the shelter needs, temporary shelters, long-term shelters, and then sheltering of pets is something that we're concerned about as well. Next slide. We've got a pretty decent database of our at-risk population, working with home health agencies, the long-term care facilities, the adult, it's the senior center over by Cardome. We're trying to make sure that we have accounted for all the people that will need special attention after something like this. It's easy to get on Facebook or do a mass notification and say, hey, we're sheltering here, or we're doing distribution of food and water. But if you don't have access, or you're not a mobile individual, somebody's going to have to provide that transportation to get you to the next step. So that's what we're concerned about. Next slide, please. We've got our predetermined shelters, and we're always looking for more. Got the 2 county-owned shelters, one at EMS and Stamping Ground, and one over on Lyle Road. We're real close to going out for bid to get the second one, for the public-private contract with Sawyer Point. And then there are 4 churches that have stepped up and said that we can use them as drop-in shelters. And then the temporary disaster shelters, we got two of them that allows us to house up to 250 people. You know, we own our own cots, we bring our blankets, we're just asking for space in the building. But, you know, again, you know, some of the statistics show 2,500, you know, even higher numbers. So having place for 250 is just a drop in the bucket. It's something that will be in our 5-year plan, trying to come up with places that we can be, or locations that, you know, would be willing to move some furniture for us so that we could have a extended shelter. Next slide, the shelter staff. Okay. Central point of distribution. In order for that to work, you got to have loading docks. We got to be able to bring in tractor trailers. You know, within 12 hours of a disaster hitting us, you know, the stuff is rolling in. You know, the state is sending us tractor trailers of water. The MREs are coming in. You know, donations. You know, people are doing stuff the bus and do all those things. So what we have set up, or at least designated, is the agriculture building behind 2200 Cincinnati Road. It's got the loading docks. The capability of bringing tractor trailers in and out has been proven. And then from there, we've got a whole lot of access to places that we can store outside and, you know, set up our other distribution points. Next, please. The points of distribution, I mentioned that earlier, the 3 locations that we're going to have citizens coming to. We're also working with City of Stamping Ground and Sadieville to have their own points of distribution. The Sadieville Police Department, you know, the former building where they have their splash pad in the park, we've developed a traffic plan so that we can do distribution there. Still working with Stamping Ground, trying to find a good location. It's probably going to end up being one of the churches, just because there aren't a lot of locations in that community where you can go in one way and out the other without having to cross overpaths. So something that's high on the priority, and we are working on it every day. We just haven't got that to share today. Next, please. Debris removal. As of this time, the only place that we've come up with that we could drop trash and start sorting it and disposing of it is the property behind Station 1, 2200 Cincinnati Road. When the bypass came through, they basically orphaned about 10 acres of land, which is the triangle on the left side of the screen. With a little bit of tree removal, we might be able to utilize that as a dump spot, at least for vegetative debris that we're either going to burn or shred or whatever it takes to move it on. And then we're working with the transportation companies to get it long-term disposal into landfills and doing all that. Next slide. And then, you probably heard, we've said it 10 times, that if we've said it anything. Gina was the first person to get the Kentucky Qualification System operations chief. She's one of the leaders of the incident management team for the state. So as bad things are happening here in Scott County, we can request an incident management team from the state, and they start taking care of a lot of our paperwork and the logistics, so allowing the EOC staff, as in department heads and stakeholders, to get back to their daily operations. And these folks that are trained in getting things brought to us and operating, all of the major league paperwork that we would have to do, they can start taking some of that heavy load off of us. So, as I said, 50,000-foot view, happy to discuss anything. Yeah.
Any questions? But, action items is contracts with debris removal and
finding a pool of volunteers. You need people to staff the points of distribution. You need people to oversee the shelters. For better or for worse, the younger people in the community are not volunteers. It's hard to get somebody to volunteer and help. So I've created a coalition with several of the ministers in the community to talk to churches about whether any of their people are interested in some parts of this. I'll trade you some CPR training or some incident management training in order to get people that would be willing to come out on a really black sky day.
Like if a church, like say, wanted to serve as an emergency shelter and/or provide volunteers, what would be the best way to reach out? Just reach out to your office.
Yeah, just reach out to us. We're always having that discussion. What I'm trying to put together right now.
Are there qualifications, or like do you all have to go look at the site and make sure it's suitable, or?
Yeah, just a quick walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Basically determining if you have a basement or not. That changes some things. A lot of
have like showers.
Yeah, if you have shower, there's a bunch of things that we're looking for. But basically, what I'm trying to do right now, there's a lot of community agencies and churches that feel like they can't help because they're not big enough or they can't do. So if I had one church that doesn't have a big building, but does have a commercial kitchen and could help with the, putting together different pieces of the puzzle so that each church doesn't feel like they have to provide everything. So that's what we're working on right now, and starting to get some traction on that. I think it's going to work out, and I'll be able to come back in 6 months and say, here's how we're actually going to make this work. So,
any other questions?
I would add, I like that you're thinking about the point of distribution stuff. I've been on a couple of disasters, and they've become burdens. I mean, like,
yes.
I think it was it the Laurel County one recently where they asked people to stop sending stuff? Because, I mean, you just think about it. People load up trucks with stuff, and they send it. And then who unloads it? And then you have all these clothes, you don't know if they're clean, somebody has to sort them by size.
Right.
And it becomes such a burden on the community that's already burdened by this disaster. You have all these just box trucks and these organizations which want to help.
Yeah.
But they send all this stuff, and then you have somebody to do something with it. And where do you put it? And who sorts it?
Right.
Who gets it off the truck?
Yeah, and that's part of this distribution plan, because the commercial donations, the tractor trailer loads of things that we have requested will come into a certain location. And then the personal stuff, like you said, pickup truck and cleaning out the attic, all that, we're working with nonprofits and local, people. The Amen House is really good at receiving that type of stuff and sorting through it. So if we can get an agreement with them, just putting different facets into that same plan so that we're not overwhelmed on the day that we need to activate it.
A lot of that stuff too ends up in a landfill.
Yeah, it does. But luckily, we got Amen House with the compact.
Yeah, people believe that they're doing the right thing by sending all this used stuff, and it just doesn't work out.
People want to help, they just don't know don't know the best avenue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Rick.
Well, you mentioned, I think the church in Stand Ground and Sadieville, the Christian church up there.
Yeah.
I know a while back you and I talked because I was contacted by one of their deacons. I don't know, I mean, did he ever contact you about, they were trying to make sure, they were trying to get these questions answered that you were talking about?
We never came to an agreement again. He contacted me and asked not to be a shelter. So.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's fine, because we've got
Sure.
the county-owned facility, and then, working with Stamping Ground Government and, some of the other churches to have options to go to, so.
Any other questions, Mike? Appreciate it very, very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Chief Ward, real quick, moving in here. give Chief Ward an opportunity. I shared a draft of the document that Chief Ward and Jeff and Chief Baker put together. And just looking at this rank consolidation proposal, this document essentially gives you additional information if the court wanted to amend the structure, and you wouldn't have lieutenants anymore, you just have captains. One of the questions the concerns that have been brought up is, the compensation for those moving from lieutenant to captain. And so I'll turn it over to you, John, and Chief Baker. On the back of the sheet, there's, we just put 50, 75, and $1 as options. If the court wants more information, we can give it to you. But John, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you all, Judge, Magistrates. One of the things is, I just want to make a point of clarification is we're not wanting to add any additional company officers, other than what we have. Basically, what this request is, currently we have 3 captains and 12 lieutenants. Basically, every single company that we have has a company officer that rides in the front seat, the supervisor of that truck. Basically, what we're trying to do is, instead of having one company officer be a captain rank and one company officer be a lieutenant rank, is to have them all the same rank. That's what we're trying to get accomplished here. So I just want to make sure that was clear, that we're not wanting to add any additional supervisors. It's just strictly renaming the title of a company officer to have it as one title name instead of 2 that we currently have.
And what you shared is, if you look side by side, the 2 job descriptions, the only difference in the captain and the lieutenant is that the captain is the designee to ride up as backup to the battalion chief.
Right. And so, we've sat down with Jeff, and, because we met with all the company officers, across the board. And, one of the biggest complaints is, by doing this, it removes opportunity to promote into that captain in the pay issue, because basically if we take 12 lieutenants and rename their names to captain that we currently have, that they're not making the same money as them. So one of the things we looked at is because of that complaint, could there be some kind of compensation for those that are eligible? And we've listed that on page 2, what the criteria would be for somebody to be eligible, but basically compensating them to ride up in the place of the shift commander for that day. So that's kind of what we've done here, and put some things together to help with this transition, if that makes sense.
And the purpose today was just to present this additional information, let you digest it. If you have additional questions.
You want questions now?
No. I mean, if you have a question now, absolutely.
Go ahead,
I can talk about it.
No, here, seriously. This is extremely confusing.
Yeah,
and I have read it 3 times.
Okay.
He's read it 4, he said.
Gotcha.
You eliminate the captain position held by 3 employees, move them to lieutenant. And I actually wrote this out based on did a Cliff Notes version based on what's in here. But then move them to lieutenants, which means everybody would be lieutenant.
No.
That's how it's worked.
That's how it reads.
That's how it's worded.
That's how it reads.
Yes, it says,
Because then it says company officers will remain captain on scene. Did you read it the same way?
I read
Okay.
it the same way.
Okay.
But then it backs up and says what you're saying.
Oh, it is a typo.
Yeah.
well, it says that there's
Well,
only
it's
3
not a
captains.
typo, but it's.
So you're saying
I was
you take
looking
the
for
captains to
notwithstanding.
lieutenants?
That
I
No,
think
no.
it's what you're meaning to say, that basically everybody's going to be level because they're all doing the same thing. But the wording initially, the first paragraph describes it as removing the captains and making them all lieutenants.
There's only 3 captains now.
Here's my understanding from Jeff when they were doing the compensation study and, looking at everybody's compensation as far as when this first started. So when Jeff went out to do that, and you're looking at the compensation for a company officer, because when you're trying to compare, one department may call a company officer one thing and another call it another, but ultimately it's what are the duties and responsibilities of that position, company officer. So that's what he compared that pay compensation based on. Because Scott County Fire has basically two different ranks for company officer, when he did that compensation study, because we had a captain and a lieutenant, the lieutenant's, from my understanding, compensation was based on the company officer duties and responsibilities, but because we had another title of a captain, he basically, and then, because basically you have a battalion chief, captain, and lieutenant, so basically he took half of that compensation study, and that's how he based the captain pay on.
But there are differences in the, if I'm understanding correctly, there are differences between a captain and a lieutenant, because as you just said, a captain, which is a company officer at this point in time, would ride in place of a battalion chief if needed.
Yes.
Whereas a lieutenant would not, unless you always have gaps and somebody has to fill that gap and they move up into that
role,
that seat. Yes.
Just like recently, we have a battalion chief that retired, so the captain is riding up.
Right.
Well, just like Mike said, that ICS, the 300, 400 class, he had to go to that training. So that left us, basically, we had to pull a lieutenant up to ride in that place. There's been other occasions where battalion chief was on vacation, the captain's supposed to ride that day, calls in sick. So at the last minute, we're having to pull a lieutenant to fill that
Which is a
spot.
normal
Yes.
thing, even even at Toyota, when a team leader's out for an extended period of time, or a line, somebody has to. Well, at the school district where you used to be, if your job went unfilled for a while, somebody's going to fill it temporarily, and that's just what happens. It doesn't mean they get more money. They're just filling that job temporarily, and because they're filling that job because they have the background, the experience to fill that job, which means they should probably be looked at as the next person that goes into that position. We all do that, have through our professional life in the private industry, fill a role that really isn't our role, but we do what is needed at that point in time. It doesn't necessarily mean that we get paid more for filling that role in a temporary status.
Let me ask you this, do you all clock in?
That makes sense?
Yes.
Is there an ability to have more than one clock in? So with the school system, if I've got people that, at certain times they're, might be a custodian, so they're clocking in at this other time, they might be a,
Principal.
No, I don't think that works.
but several classified options there.
No.
So I'm just curious, would
We
not have a situation
can
where-
get that answered. I'll have to.
You
Karis,
understand what I'm saying?
like they clock in as a battalion chief.
I do understand, because
when they're only asked to be in that role, they clock in as that role.
But I think your benefit is, if you're a lieutenant that ends up having to ride in the battalion chief seat, is because you're getting the experience to further your career.
Until you're
whether it's in Scott
do it
County
over
or
and over and over and over again because you got somebody that won't show up. So you got to be careful on both sides.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if that's an issue,
leadership, too.
but that's issue of somebody's not showing up to work on a regular basis. I mean, that's.
Or it could be, maybe there's a long-term clause in there, like after so many days.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do is, instead of having a captain rank and a lieutenant rank for a company officer, I'm just trying to have one rank. And that way, where you're talking about people wanting and interested in then one day promoting to a battalion chief, is we're giving people more opportunities, because if they meet this criteria, they would be eligible to if a battalion chief is to ride up and gain that experience. To whereas right now, a lieutenant may never get that opportunity if the captain is always, you know what I'm saying? And it cuts down, following the chain of command, that outside house company officers have to call and report to a captain prior to talking to their battalion chief. To me, I think an outside company officer, if we have the same rank, they're all the same rank, that can report directly to the battalion chief. Again, I don't believe we're a big enough department to justify having two different ranks in a company officer position. I think one rank in that company officer position is what we need.
John, why don't we do this? So you got a battalion chief opening, right? We had a retirement. You have 3 captains. You have all these lieutenants, 12.
lieutenants, yeah.
Why don't you just shift the captains down to lieutenants, keep their pay the same, and then as attrition takes them, as they're promoted or they retire, whatever, once you've gone through all those 3 captains and they are now out and doing everything, you got all the lieutenants the same pay, you just switch them all to captains.
Well, I think that's what Jeff was referring to, what you all were saying was kind of confusing you, is that's
Yeah.
what he's talking about, but as far as staying in line with other surrounding departments, that we just title them captains. But that's basically because the 3 current captains, we're not going to,
We're not going
because
to
we
reduce
dropped-
their salary.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm still confused by this opening sentence.
That's what Jeff's talking about, attrition. Eventually,
Because he's saying, though, that they would eliminate.
But if you go on down through there,
As it currently exists.
as it currently exists,
Which I agree, it's
Well,
the way.
so why can't you just make
Trying to get in their mind.
and I'm asking because I don't know, because I've not been in this position that you all are in and have not worked in that industry and wasn't in the military. And so why can't you just make a differential between in the name of the captains? Your 12 are something captain, and then your 3 are something captain. Because I understand if I'm a lieutenant and you're giving me the title of captain, well, that's like me working at the bank and being a teller and getting the title of vice president and getting nothing for it. I would expect the pay raise if you're moving my rank up. And that's the problem.
That's what we ran into during our meetings.
So instead of moving them to captain rank, can we not just change and differentiate between the 2 levels, may have 2 levels of captain? So you have those 12 that are specific. Do what?
Super captain.
Yeah, super captain. Captain, my captain. I don't know. But do you understand what I'm saying? Where you still have captain rank, but you have those 3 that are company officers, or captain / CO that differentiates between those 12 people and those 3 people.
I don't think they want to differentiate, though. I think
Well,
they all be the same.
that's why we
But
were,
if everybody has the same title, who is leading?
And that was my question to them the other day. I said, are we putting too many
But what
chiefs
if
and
the
not enough
battalion
Indians?
No, no.
is not on duty?
But there are not that many there, though. We're talking
Yeah.
different people, but we're talking different shifts.
Different shifts.
So
and
basically,
different days.
So it's spread out, so you
It's
really
spread
only have
way
one
out.
captain.
There's 5 company officers per shift with
Right.
that chief.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I guess-
what I emailed about is what Chad mentioned earlier. Why don't we just, or have you thought about through attrition, right? You have 3 captains as they promote up, leave all the lieutenants the same. When all the captains are gone, all lieutenants that are now on the same pay scale are all now captains, right? And if you have a captain moves up, you add a new lieutenant. So you'll eventually have 15 lieutenants that are all the same pay scale. And then bam, you're all now captains. And you're on your same, so you don't have to worry with this whole, do we pay more or not? And it's fair across the board. I think that's very fair that these 3 have earned the right to be captains. They get to maintain that title until they don't anymore. They retire, they move up, and then everything's fine. And then now we have 15 captains, or whatever you want to call it.
so stop right there. If we took that approach and maintained, but any current lieutenant could do what you propose here, criteria for being able to provide backup support. 2 years supervisory experience, complete 48 hours of ride time with the battalion chief, and then completion of the officer development class. So if you just did what what's being proposed there, but allowed the lieutenants to do this, that would solve your training aspect of having qualified people to step into that other role as interim, whatever it is, battalion chief for the day. I mean,
What's the sense of urgency on this as far as, is there a, how fast are you needing to have it done? 'Cause I just feel like there's still a lot of, nobody feels like, oh, it makes complete sense right now. You know what I mean? But if there's a,
I'll go back to this. You've got 2 ranks, and the job descriptions for both ranks are the same except for riding up.
I get that.
And you got 3.
But you got pay involved. So whenever you got pay involved and you're gonna affect somebody's pay, then
Right,
and we're
and
trying
that's
to be
what,
stewards of the tax dollars at the same time, not just.
And they didn't propose raising anybody's.
Right.
They,
So anytime you're going to affect somebody's pay, it doesn't matter what the job description does. We're affecting somebody's pay.
But we're not affecting anybody's pay currently. We're just eliminating the future, like those 3 captain spots.
But you're going to have people with the same title. Some's getting paid more, which again, Kelly and I think some of you other private folks will say, plenty of people will have the same job and get paid differently. So I mean.
well, and that's why what David was just talking about, as far as if you change somebody's title, but you're not compensating them for it, that's what we were trying to address here. Because like our recommendation is not to give all 12 lieutenants a pay raise, but if they meet this criteria, and one, they are interested in riding up, that's why we were trying to address that concern, is if you are interested in riding up, and if you meet this criteria, then here is the pay increase for doing it.
So you're not saying.
So like so currently right now, there's only basically 3 lieutenants that would meet that, all of this. Now there's a few that need some ride time. They've already completed officer development class. They have the 2 years, but then we have, I think, 3 or 4 getting ready to be 4 that don't even have the 2 years experience. So there's another 2 years that they.
So this would kind of leak in or limp in a little bit.
Right. It's like a gradual approach. It's not all at once. And that's why I say, but that's what we're trying, exactly what David was talking about. If we're changing somebody's title and they are giving this extra responsibility of potentially riding up, then that's where the pay
I didn't understand that, so that does make a little bit.
Yeah, and like I said, we're not trying to come in here and say all 12 right now, tomorrow, we'll get that pay increase.
Okay. Are you saying, though, we asked this earlier, I'm still kind of confused. So if Dwayne and I are both lieutenants, Dwayne can ride up as a battalion chief, I can't because of this criteria.
Right.
But today, neither of us are riding up. Are we getting paid the same today? Or is he always making more than I am, even though today we're doing the same?
He would be making more than you if he met that criteria.
I'm very well aware of that.
Because he's subject.
Like that to me, I think you could cause yourself some potential struggle, right? Like if we're doing the same job today, like right, based off of our pay structure and our rank and stuff, I mean, he might make a little bit more.
Apples to apples.
Yeah, like we should make the same. But if he is riding
together,
if he's riding up, if we started together, right? We're part of this new recruit class, and it's 10 years down the road. Today we're both lieutenants. I think that if he's riding up as a battalion chief, he should make more money, 100%. But if he's not, we're doing the same job, we should make the same. I think because you're going to cause yourself some grief.
Well, we're experiencing that right
there.
now. We're paying captains, the 3 captains, more than the lieutenants, and every single day they're not riding up, and they are making more than the lieutenant, and they're doing the same job. They're the company officer of that truck. It happens right now.
I'm talking more about when we're done with the captains,
Right.
the 3 that aren't there anymore for whatever reason, and then now all these lieutenants are all now captains or whatever we want to call them.
Right.
Like I think that's when you're going to have the strife of we're all now the same. We're doing the same job today. I don't see
we
why
have the same authority.
We have the same authority today, same job. Now, if he's riding a battalion chief, sure, he has more authority, he has more responsibility today. So I just think that's something that we should look at.
Yeah. And like even with the compensation that we have in place now, I mean, depending on your, months of service, you've got different company officers that make different money just because of the time on the job.
That's natural,
Yes, yeah.
So what other questions do you have? And then maybe in the next day, few days, if you have other questions, you could send to Jeff and John and Chief Baker, myself. And then, I don't think we have clarity on a direction to go right now. So, I think we need to try to put together questions, share those questions, and then determine what the pleasure of the court is. So, I appreciate it. Last thing of the day.
All right, thank you.
Michelle, always
Last
very,
but not least.
last but not least. So if you'll look at the draft, and look historically, 2020, your assessed value, RE value, 4.9 billion. Go to 21, your assessed RE value, 5.3, 22, 5.6, 23, we break over to 6.1, and then 24, 6.6, and 25, your assessed RE value is now at 7.2 billion. Am I correct, Miss Ray?
You're correct.
So we have no control over that assessed value.
No, sir.
But if you look and see at the rate in 2020, 0.062, and we have reflected a reduction in the rate over time to where now, in order to stay below the 4% growth in revenue for the court, a recommendation, I think, from Michelle would be to have an adjustment and a reduction of the rate to 0.0528. If you'll look at that very far right pink highlighted column, that rate would reflect a 3.8% growth in revenue year to year on property tax. Michelle, I wanted to frame it up, but let you take it from there.
Well, that just framed it up. You just explained it all. I mean, that's perfection right there.
Well, Michelle and I, Michelle puts the pencil to the paper. Michelle and I met yesterday for quite some time talking about this, and I'm very thankful that Michelle can crunch these numbers.
And that is that 5.28 is for real estate property. At the bottom, you'll see the tangible, that personal property rate. That's a different calculation. I mean, it's going to be a different percentage.
Yeah.
To stay within the confines.
But I want to point out to you this: between 2020, when we earned about $3,074,000 in 2020. In 2025, if we drop the rate to 0.0528, our projected revenue would be $3.8 million. So
that's without taking into account new growth.
Without new growth.
The new growth would be.
But that's not assessed until next year, correct?
The new growth is put into this calculation. It has to be taken out from current assessments, and then current assessments has to be calculated and then put back in. It can't be included in the original assessment value since it has not been previously assessed.
So but what I'm trying to represent to you is that the change in our revenue is very minimal. What's the total number, Michelle?
104. Well, if you take the recommended, it would be an additional 142.
$142,000. Yeah.
As opposed, if we went the comp rate, it'd be 156.
And if you went to comp rate, you'd be subject to recall.
But if we held the rate,
we do not want to do that.
Yeah, held the rate would make it 8.6. So that's really,
yeah. If you held the rate, it would be 8.6, and we're not going. I'm not going to recommend that. So, and here's the rest of the story that I want to share real quick, and I'll go back to it. Property tax, our property tax, and between now and the end of next week, we want to get the data, but I guarantee you, we are in the bottom 10, bottom 5 to 10, and maybe lower, and our property tax that the county realizes is that this is 6.1% of our total general fund budget, 6.1%. But if you look, and there is no, this is a product of the PVA, and if you look at on a $100,000 home, 2024, just apples to apples, your property tax bill, excluding city tax, is $899.30. That was for 2024. So if you look at what the schools get from that, of that $899, the schools get $629. The state government gets $109. County government only gets and uses $55 of that, 6% of that total of that $899. So, like the revenue from that is very minimal, and we have made I think we have collectively worked to not increase that tax burden on our community, and that's why we rely so heavily on OLT and net profits. And that's people that work here and live here. Yes, they pay it, but so many people, 17,000 that come into our community, pay that and then leave, and we get the benefit from those services. Yes, we got to deal with the traffic, but we're here to provide the services. What comments would anyone have on this draft and this recommendation of a possible reduction to 0.0528?
I hate how the formula is formulated.
But we have no control of it.
Because it's just like road funding, transportation funding, is you drop, and then you hit a crisis, and you cannot get.
You can't get back.
You can't get it back. And I agree with the recommendation to maintain it as the least amount of possible increase because of where the majority of our revenue comes from. But if you ever have an issue with that majority of the revenue, it's a crisis.
That is a real cliff.
Yeah.
But that, to me, is why adding good jobs is so important, and it has to be done, measured approach, and not not reflecting that it wouldn't be that way. But what other comments?
Well, just to comment on the cliff, if you hit that cliff like David was talking about, where it's going to affect, that's when you see foreclosure signs. So it's going to be a meltdown. So, obviously those things can happen. We've seen it. 08, I think the 08, 09, it lasted for several years trying to claw ourselves back. I think our community, when you look across the nation, we were fortunate, but it still affected Scott County. We had a lot of trouble, but I'm like David. I get that, but I like the path we've been on because
you just got to keep that rainy day. You got to be
right.
And then looking down on the personal property, 0.0511 would be a proposed rate that would realize 3.97% growth over last year, and that would actually be a reduction from last year's rate of 0.0518. So, questions, comments? When will we bring this to the court for their consideration? Last meeting of August?
I would probably so.
Okay. We'll look at that timeline. I have no other items. We've been busy. We'll say that on Monday, our sheriff's office and our clerk's office is hoping to open up. We've still got a question here about software management for the clerk and functionality there. We're working on that. Ordinance for street legal SPVs. I've shared that draft we will bring that and call that question on Friday. If anybody has any additional comments or considerations there. Also, the Otis elevator and the Cadmus software, I think we've answered those. I think we've answered those questions and can bring those back for
Thank you for that, Judge,
question.
on the Otis elevator.
So, if not, we'll adjourn.
Motion?
Nope.